the last 10 years from 2004 to 2014, those 10 years are worse than the years of Aurangzeb. So Narendra Modi came and he showed the resistance. He started reversing the process. The votes that we give to BJP have positive civilizational consequences.
Hello, a very good evening. A very good evening. Welcome back to Swarajya Conversations. I know that it's been a while, but on the background, we are working on a project that we are very excited about, and very soon we will be informing the public about this exciting new product that we are building on the background. Joining me today for a conversation is Aravindan Neelakandan ji, who has come out with his latest book called Hindutva: Origin, Evolution, and the Future. Aravindan ji, thank you so much. Namaste, namaste.
Namaste. It's a very great pleasure to be here with you in conversation.
Absolutely, it's always a pleasure to talk to you, Aravindan ji, and I look forward to this interaction with you. First of all, for those who of you are planning to buy this book, the book is available on Amazon, and you can easily order it. And it's a pretty huge book, obviously because of the depths to which Aravindan ji has gone into,
Yes.
and that's the cover of the book. But we also have an exciting limited offer for you from Swarajya, which is if you subscribe to Swarajya for an amount of 999 rupees, you get Arvindan G's books for free, which is worth 995 rupees. So effectively, you'll be paying only 4 rupees for the subscription, and it's a limited offer. So I suggest that you go to the description below and click on the offer and subscribe to Swarajya at the earliest. Now, without further ado, Arvindanji, let me begin by asking one way to better understand or define an idea is to explain the problem that is being addressed by it. So, what were the shortcomings of the word Hinduism that scholars in the 19th century and later on had to come up with this term called Hindutva?
Well, here I want to just rephrase this particular question. Okay. Coming up with is actually a loaded term. You come up with the epicycles because you don't have the concept, you haven't discovered that actually the solar system is heliocentric. So you come up with the epicycles. You come up with an explanation because you don't have the actual facts in your hands. So here actually what happened was that the term Hinduism is somehow is static. It is a kind of, you have Marxism, you have socialism, you have a lot of isms. In fact, even Judaism was a term that was, I think if I am right, coined around 16th century. Okay. So you have these isms. And Hinduism was also seen as an ism by the Western scholars. In fact, there is a controversy that the term itself, even the term Hinduism, was not coined by the British, but it was coined by Raja Ram Mohan Roy. Okay, so basically the term has a very strong Indian origin that is explained in the book. The term Hindutva, now we come to Hindutva. Hindutva is not something that we came up with. Hindutva is a discovery. I would say that. Hindutva is a discovery because we discovered earlier that somehow this so-called Hinduism is not similar to other isms, or even it is not similar to the belief-based religions like Christianity and Islam. There is space for belief-based religions within the Hindu environment, within the Hindu ecosystem, but it is something even more. So what actually is that? Naturally, almost everyone came to the understanding that what we call Hinduism is actually not an ism, it is a process. A process that defines this nation in a very different way than the way nation states were getting defined in Europe. Nation states in Europe were defined by ethnicity, were defined by a particular political form of government, by the boundaries, but here the national being of India is something entirely different, qualitatively different, and it is very natural. So with this, they wanted a term for this, and the term Independently, two great seers of Indian civilization, Rabindranath Tagore and Veer Savarkar, they come up with the term Hindutva to define the national process, the process by which we become Hindus, the process by which this nation is built. So that is how you have to
Right.
see the term Hindutva.
Now, since 1892, this particular term has been in use. So, do you think the term is a little bit more loaded than what it was originally intended or described as? Because, we as a country and as a civilization have gone through so much in the last 100 years or so.
The last 100 years, what we have gone through has actually reinforced the process oriented view of Hindutva. So the term Hinduness, it has shown resilience in the last 70 years. In the last 70 years to last 100 years, we have faced more attacks, qualitatively different attacks. I would even say qualitatively superior attacks than the attacks that we have faced before. So this term Hindu, naturally, it has shown resilience, it has shown adaptability, and it has also shown where are the fault lines within it. As such, for example, let me give you a solid example so it will be clear for you. Take the Dravidian movement. The Dravidian movement, people claimed that they were not Hindus. That the
Right.
Dravidian religion is different, Dravidian race is different, Dravidian language is different. So they created this very strong political identity, and with this they were able to conquer Tamil Nadu for the last many
Right.
decades. They have been able to conquer Tamil Nadu, so you cannot even brush it as it. Okay, but now look into this Dravidian ecosystem. Let us say, what is happening? The leaders are going to the temples. The leaders are getting the services of the Brahmins to conduct their yajnas. You go to Tirukadavur, where famous Abhirami temple is there, where the Ayush Homams happen. You can always see cars with the party flags coming there to do this Ayush Homa. Okay. And if you look at the television channels run by these Dravidian stalwarts, you will find Ramayana, Mahabharata, Veer Hanuman, Bal Ganapati, everything being telecast in their television system. So you have a political narrative, you have a lived experience, and in the lived experience of even the Dravidian is the Hindu nature is there. They cannot deny it. So they are living a kind of a split personality life actually. Okay. Now, this is how
Right.
the Hindu nature is able to assert itself. Now, I will give you another
Right.
parallel example for this, which is very important. Similar racial theories have been propagated in other colonized areas, provinces, like, for example, Rwanda, the Hutu Tutsi. They were told that they were entirely different ethnic groups. One group was subjugating the other. Then it resulted in genocide. In India, continuously this particular narrative is being peddled that the Aryans came and they subjugated the non-Aryans. Given the amount of propaganda that has been done, given the amount of investment that has been gone into this particular narrative, India should have faced at least 5 major genocides against who are all considered as Aryans, but it didn't happen. Again, this shows how Hindutva is more resilient.
Right. And I would also like to ask you some of the common questions that youngsters may not have answers to. And I think you've addressed this in depth in the book as well. One of the questions is that why does Hindutva or Hindu Dharma consider Sikhism or Buddhism or even Jainism as an integral and an organic part of Hinduism?
That is the very natural thing. Because, see, when Savarkar makes the definition of the word Hindu, he points out one particular aspect. After the Britishers came, they have tried to define Hinduism in a particular way. In such a way that they have excluded Buddhism, Jainism, Sikhism, etc. All these punths, they have been separated from the flow of Dharma as if they are different things. But it is not so. It is not so. It is actually a very natural branching and remingling of a river. So you got to see Sikhism or Buddhism or Jainism as the different branches coming out and then coming together. Even a person like A.L.
Right.
Basham, okay, a person like A.L. Basham, who is basically a Westerner, basically a person who was rooted in this Aryan, non-Aryan binary, even he was able to tell this, that if you look at Jainism or Ajivaka sect of Jainism, etc., even Ajivaka sect can be considered as a separate sect. Even if you consider it that way, you have to think of it as a branch of the Vedic system where the impersonal Rita is emphasized. So all these things, in the case of Sikhism, it
Right.
is Bhakti that is emphasized. So all these should be considered in a holistic way as Hindu. That is the reason why even Dr. Ambedkar accepted the fact that culturally they are all one big family. We have to see them as family members of the Hindu family of religions.
Right. Very interesting. That brings us to one of the most important themes of your book, which is theodiversity, and you've addressed this in detail. When you introduce theodiversity in your book, you also trace the roots of monotheism and monotheistic imperialism to the Zoroastrians. Can you tell us a little bit more about this?
For the term theodiversity, I am actually indebted to Professor Logesh Chandra. Okay, I don't know when this particular telecast would be put in the YouTube channel. Definitely, it will be within 1 or 2 days or within a week. In January
Okay.
2023, okay, in January 2023, Scientific American is coming with a story on Indian tribal communities. And it talks about theological diversity, and it is a typical Western perspective where Hinduism is pitted against Christianity as if two monolithic blocks. Okay, it is a very, very colonial narrative that we are going to see, but theodiversity, the term coined by there, even they have not given credit to Professor Logesh Chandra. Theodiversity is a term that was coined by Professor Logesh Chandra. And what I realized was that this forms the basis of India's civilizational ethos. Okay, India's civilizational substratum is this theodiversity. And
Right.
in the case of Zoroastrianism, how I see it in this book is perhaps later his discoveries may either reinforce it or may discredit it. But right now, how I see it is like this. You have Vedic people, there is a civilizational evolution, there is what Julian Janus calls the breakdown of the bicameral mind. Okay, and he identifies by the breakdown of the bicameral mind as the point where monotheism emerged during the axial age throughout the world. I argue in this book that this bicameral mind, integration of the bicameral mind rather than the breakdown of the bicameral mind, happened in India long before the axial age came into being. Okay, and during this time, there was a schism. In the sense, some of the people, some of the clans belonging to the Vedic community had breakdown of the bicameral mind and emergence of monotheism. And they immigrated out of India and then they got settled in Iran. Remember, always there have been people going in and coming out of Iran and India. That was a given. Okay. Now, for a specific religious reason, these people are moving out of India and they were developing a religion that is not just monotheistic but is also dualistic, binary, where there is the god of light, god of light, Ahura Mazda, fighting against the god of darkness, Agurman. Okay, so you have here the proto-Saturn that you will later find full blown in both Christianity and Islam. In Judaism, on the contrary, you have mainly the God alone. The adversary or the Saturn is a minor figure. It was in Zoroastrianism that this Saturn is a major figure, or let us say Ahriman is the major figure, and they were able to see this in their social context, and they saw those who rejected monotheism as belonging to the dark god. So this dualism came into
Right.
being, a kind of a theo-rivalry came into being, and they identified the people on the other side of the Sindhu river. They considered them as Hindu, At the same time, the term Hindu itself has deeper Vedic roots. It was not that the Parsis gave the name or the Zoroastrians gave the name Hindu. The Hindu actually denoted a particular spiritual orientation and a sacred geography. And they developed a religion that was a conquering religion in which the theological other was defined as the evil or the dark person.
One more thing is that a constant feature in some of the writings, whether it's your books or in Swarajya, is you delve into divine feminism. What I want to ask you is that how did this idea of cosmic mother evolve into Bharat Mata, the idea of Bharat Mata, and how did it become ingrained so much in our culture that it is difficult to stand apart from it and also difficult to sort of explain it even today?
This divine mother is also connected to Theodiversity. Okay. Uh, Here you have the divine feminine can manifest itself in varied forms. In varied forms. And a person who is rooted in the Theodiversity can recognize the divine feminine despite the difference of the forms, despite the difference in the context in which the divine feminine manifests. Okay. So, for example, sometimes it is actually a problem even for the people who tell who even subscribe to the idea of Bharat Mata. Sometimes it becomes a problem if you think of Bharat Mata as separate from the divine feminine at large. Okay. For example, we call the rivers as our mother, right? We call the languages as our mother. We call the trees as our mother. And then we also call the entire land Bharat Mata as our mother. How many mothers can one person have? We call cows as our mother. How many persons can one person have? How many mothers can one person have? So that would be a rhetorical question that people would be asking. The answer is that it is the same mother, it is the same divine feminine that expresses itself in all the things that nurtures you. So when I tell Vante Bharata Madaram with equal passion, with equal devotion, with equal love, I can also say Vante Jagan Madaram. Okay, Vante Jagan Madaram is actually a term that is used in Venkatesa Suprabhata throughout India. Okay, so Vante Madaram, whether it is Vante Bharata Madaram or Vante Jagan Madaram, we are addressing the same divine feminine. That is the cosmic mother. This is an understanding that is there already inherent in any Hindu. For example, you consider yourself standing before a goddess whose name you don't know, whose forms completely you are unfamiliar with. It is a goddess inside an Amazonian jungle. You are standing right before her. The local tribes worship her. As a Hindu, you will have no problem, no hesitation in bowing your head in front of that, for want of a better term, I would tell idol, in front of that goddess. You will bow with the same love that you bow for the goddess in your hometown. Right?
Absolutely.
It is a natural thing. It's a very natural thing. This is the basis of how the cosmic mother and Bharat Mata are united. In realizing the Bharat Mata, in making her sit in the throne that is due to her, we are actually worshipping the cosmic mother. That is how we see it.
Very interesting. You have also talked about the primacy of experience in Hinduism as compared to the primacy of texts in, say, other religions. Can Vigraha Puja, derogatory called idol worship today, be traced to the quality of Hinduism where we can see, touch, and serve our gods in daily lives?
Definitely. See, this Vigraha Puja that that has been demonized and discredited, negatively stereotyped as idol worship and all that. Even if it is an idol worship, it is our right to be an idol worshipper. We don't have any shame in telling that we are idol worshippers. No problem with that. But the point is, people don't understand when they criticize idol worship. And again, when you tell that your God is compassionate, when you tell that your God is a jealous God who would not tolerate you worshipping any other form, you are giving a psychological form to the God. A physical form that has symbolism, a lot of symbolism in it, is far better than a psychological form. that is very rigid, very cruel. Actually, it was Rabindranath Tagore who said that a God who had invented eternal hell is the most frightening form of God that the human mind ever invented. Okay, that was what Rabindranath Tagore said. Now the point again, coming back to this, here we have theodiversity. Naturally,
Yeah.
we also understand the basic psychological spiritual fact that every human mind is unique, every human imagination has multiple infinite dimensions, so it can relate itself to the divine in how many ways as possible it can relate. So, the so-called idol worship is a necessity. And
Right.
to streamline it, what has happened is our rishis, our entire yogic system, our great seers, they have gone into meditation, they have gone through certain processes, and they have come up with this wonderful divine cosmic archetypes. You take the dancing Shiva. The dancing Shiva becomes a metaphor for almost all the domains of knowledge in modern times. Each time a particular knowledge domain becomes deepened, naturally the image of Shiva emerges there as a metaphor. So, if a particular image has the capacity to emerge as a metaphor in multiple
Right.
domains of knowledge, there should be a basic reality to it. And that is the spiritual reality, and that has been discovered in India, and that is important. That is why this so called idol worship is the most important, most beautiful contribution that Hindu Dharma has given to the world.
Extremely enlightening. Thank you so much for beautifully explaining that. Now to Sanghatan part. What is special about the social conditions of the 20th century that it was only then that the RSS was born, whereas the forces which it had fought against had been around for centuries, you know?
See, Hindu Sangathan is part of the Hindutva process. Okay.
Right.
Hindu Sangathan is the resistance movement. Hindu Sangathan is the social adaptability of the Hindu organism. Okay. And the Hindu Sangathan has always been there in one form or other. It has been there in the form of Khalsa, it has been there in the form of the Hindu Padapashragi of the Maratha movement, it has always been there. It has been there
Right.
in South India, it has been there in Bengal, it has always been there. Now, with the coming of the British, we had the need to create a pan-Indian network. Okay. And that pan-Indian network has to have in it the civilizational features of India and also elements taken from the West to consolidate the organization. So, for example, if you look at the RSS movement, you have the as they are always derided, they are Nikkarwalas, right? They are called Nikkarwalas. When they do their Padasanchalan, the music is Western root music, Western music. So they are asked the question, why you do this? Because the Vedic dictum is that let noble thoughts come to us from everywhere. Let good things come to us from everywhere. So this particular form is uniting us. Let us take the form. There is no problem in quarreling with the form. So they have taken the form. At the same time, if you look at RSS, it derives
Right.
its strength from the earlier Hindu Sangathan movements. Okay. I'll give you one
Right.
example, one solid example.
Yeah.
Whenever a natural disaster or a man-made disaster happens, like in the movie Dam Burst, or let us say the Bhopal gas tragedy, or in Quilon there was a train crash, near Uttar Pradesh there was a mid-air crash of the Saudi Airlines. In all this, what is the common point uniting all this is that in all these places, the RSS Swayam Sevaks were the first people to reach there and work. Okay, within the short
Correct.
time. In fact, if you study the disaster management manuals, you will know that those initial moments are crucial moments for saving life. RSS
Right.
has developed. It didn't attend any seminars. It didn't attend any big training sessions or uh, things, but they have perfected this system of reaching out to a place of disaster within the first 1 hour. The Swayam Sevak would be there. throughout India, even where the Swayamsevaks are strong or not. In Kerala, Swayamsevaks are not that strong, right? But they were there. When tsunami struck Tamil Nadu, the Swayamsevaks were there.
Yeah.
Okay, how did this happen? This happened because they tapped into the informal Hindu social networks that were existing from time immemorial. And the only thing they did was they adapted it to the modern situations. Okay, so this is the link between the traditional Hindu Sangathan movement and the RSS. You have to see RSS as a tool that the larger Hindutva process uses. That is how we have to see it.
And what do you think Narendra Modi's journey in this Hindu Sangathan represents?
Well, there are two aspects to this particular phenomenon called Narendra Damodar Das Modi. Okay,
Yeah.
the first thing is he represents a strong resistance that the Hindutva process is having towards the conquering predatory religions. The last 10 years from 2004 to 2014, those 10 years are worse than the years of Aurangzeb. Structures were created to destroy Hindu social unity. Structures were created to deepen every wound that is present in the Hindu society. And they were all exploited by a political leadership that had a greater agenda. They fancied themselves as the Constantines of India. They wanted to convert entire India. They wanted to get rid of Hinduism in India. That was their first thing. Getting India converted to
Yeah.
another religion came next. They wanted to get rid of Hinduism in India, and they were doing it in a very fast, very effective manner, and the damage was greater than anything caused by Ghaznavi as well as Savarkar. And this particular juncture, just as Narendra Modi himself said that every time there was an Aurangzeb, there would be a Veer Shivaji. Every time there was Aurangzeb factored 10 times, there would be a Narendra Modi. So Narendra Modi came and he showed the resistance. He started reversing the process. India was weakened at all levels. Strategically, India was weakened. In terms of infrastructure, India was weakened. In terms of social unity, India was weakened. In terms of cultural unity, India was weakened. He was reversing the trend. He is doing that. Right now, he is in the middle of doing that. Okay. And that is why I always say that the votes that we give to BJP have positive civilizational consequences for our future.
Right.
That is one aspect. The second aspect is that he is the starting point of the coming Hindu Renaissance. He is giving us the very important buffer time. It is for the Hindu society to recoup itself, stand by him, and understand the civilizational genius that is being represented by Modi and take his work forward. That is what we have to do right now.
I think people in Tamil Nadu will know the value of giving votes to a civilizational party more than any of us. We are a little more spoiled that way. But before we see you off, my last question is in his book, The Imaginary Voyage, Shimon Peres takes the figure of Theodore Herzl on a tour of Israel and basically shows him what vision he has and what it has led to. Similarly, if you were to take Veer Savarkar ji on a tour of India in 2022, where would you take him? What would you show him and why?
One place I would say that, in fact, two places. Importantly, there are a lot of places I would take him, but there are two places. One is INS Jarawa, that is in Andaman. This man was handcuffed. He was taken to Andaman. He is going to spend, if everything goes according to the British plan, next 50 years he is going to be there in Andaman jails till 1960. Okay, his future is completely doomed. He is going to Andaman. And in handcuff, as he was crossing, he looks at Andaman and he says, what a beautiful naval base this would make for independent India. That was his thought. His future is doomed. He is going inside, almost into the jaws of death and torturous humiliation. At that point, this young man was thinking about the future of India, how a naval base should come there. After In fact, it came 2 years before Veer Savarkar renounced his body. Nevertheless, now it is a very full-fledged naval base. I would like to take him there and to show him that his dream has come true. Okay, that is one. The second place I would like to take him is to Ayodhya, to show him that we have reversed the onslaught of monotheism, and we have shown that, in fact, the onslaught of monopolistic expansionism, and we have reconstructed the Ram temple. This is the beginning I would like to show. Then I would like to, of course, take him to South India and show him that the challenges remain. We need thousands of Veer Savarkars. That are the three places I thought.
That's wonderful. Thank you so much, Aravindan ji, for giving us your time. Thank you very much. And if you have a message that you would like to give to our viewers about your book, please do.
Okay. As every other wants, I want this book to be read by every Hindu. Every Hindu. I want this book to be read. And I want them not to accept it, but to critically debate it, evaluate it, and absorb whatever is good in it, and take the mission forward. Okay, so that one day this book will become a footnote in the chapters of Hindutva, the glorious chapters of Hindutva that are coming in the future.
Thank you very much, Aravindan ji. Thank you very much for giving us your time. Namaste.